So this is preparing to stream the live. That's okay. Let me let me take a moment to first say our guest tonight, between the time that we booked the show and the time that the show actually airs, she had a little incident and she broke her jaw. But you know what? This lady is such a trooper. She showed up for you anyway. And I want to, I mean, I just, the bravery, the courage, and the tenacity is just unbelievable. So I want to give you a little information about her. Her name is Elena Davidson. During her life, she struggled for 20 years with turmoil and unhappiness and depression. Despite her best efforts, and she tried pretty much everything therapy, she tried nutrition by changing her diet, she tried the self help books, she tried spirituality, and she just couldn't make the changes that she wanted to see. But today she's going to share her experiences on the road to happiness and wisdom via what she wrote in her book entitled Finding Your Own Happy: The Soul Searcher's Guide to Peace and Happiness in Everyday Life. Her work as a health and happiness coach specializes in helping empathic and sensitive women who struggle with inner turmoil and conflict that affect their self-esteem and leave them feeling that they aren't good enough. She finally figured out what was missing and subsequently completely transformed her life, helping her to find peace and create the life that she truly loves. That's what we want for you. So Alana's here to help guide you to do the same thing that she did. So I want you to help me welcome Elena Davidson to Debruary 2021. Hey, Alana.
Hey, so glad to be here, even with my broken jaw.
Girl, I just cannot give you enough props for what you are going through and how you showed up anyway. I just really want to thank you.
Yes, great to be here.
So let's start by asking, because my belief is that every author is motivated by, I don't know, a feeling, something, some experiences that they've had, some emotions, um, by before they write a book. These are kind of things that they experienced or thought or felt or whatever motivated them to write the book. So what is it that you hoped to share and what you hope that readers of your book are going to gain?
hmm So, like you said in the introduction, I had spent so many years wondering what was wrong with me and why the tools I had that seemed to work for everybody else weren't working for me. And so I wrote the book because I started to see a lot of other people walking around in the world going, gosh, I feel like there's something uniquely wrong with me and I don't understand what it is. And I started to see that if they had the same tools and understanding that it took me so long to discover, that it could make a real difference for them as well and help them unlock some of the places that they were still struggling with happiness, with feeling good enough, with inner turmoil and inner conflict. And so my hope is really to give them some of that insight and those tools that would help them also, as the book is titled, find their own happy.
Well, can you take a moment, Alana, and define for us what happiness is for the context of this show?
Yeah, sure. So there's the emotion of happiness, and then there's like a general sense or state of well being in your life that includes all emotions, right? So when I talk about happiness in my book, really what I'm talking about is congruency with yourself and a sense of okayness, right? The lack of inner turmoil, that sense of congruency in your life. Now, if something bad happens, somebody dies, you may be sad, you may have a whole range of emotions, but underneath it all, there's a foundation of general happiness and well being in your life. And so that's really what I'm speaking to when I talk about finding your own happy.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, while I was getting ready for this show, Alana, I read, well, I don't know, I came across an article on WebMD that talked about depression in women. And it said that women are twice as likely as men to be on antidepressants. And this particular article covered a period of 1999 to 2014, and it said that antidepressant use was up 65%. I just couldn't believe it.
Mhm.
So, what is it that you think is making so many women miserable? Just unhappy and miserable that they need antidepressants.
Well, if I go along with one of the themes of my book is that sensitive and empathic people often struggle a lot more with feelings of unhappiness and depression. Women are also often more sensitive and empathic than men. And given the state of the world and everything that's going on around us right now, there's a lot of reasons why we could be getting affected by the things happening around us. There's a chapter in my book that I call Contexts and Conditions Matter, which is looking not just at mental health as an individual person-to-person issue, but also as an issue with society, with culture, with the environments that we live in. And if you're a sensitive person, you may have a harder time adjusting to challenging life conditions or a culture and environment that really doesn't support human well-being. So I think those could all be some of the contributing factors for women just feeling like something ain't quite right.
Yeah, I just couldn't believe it. And it just seems like, because I know I've been to the doctor when certain things happen and you're kind of in a crisis that's a temporary thing. And
Mm.
they just the one thing they want to do, they just want to pop you, prescribe you a pill. Well,
Well,
maybe you just need a couple of sessions with some, you just need somebody to talk to
that's
help
the
get you over
other,
that hump.
yeah, that's the other side of it. I think that we are in America very quick to prescribe medication rather than deal with the emotional content or the real true issues. And so the quick fix is people want to feel better. Here, take this pill, it'll make you feel better. But it misses dealing with what the real life issues are. And sometimes you just need to deal with the real life issues, and that can really transform your experience. So I think that may be a piece of it as well.
Okay, so it's like a double prong thing.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about that part of your book that asked us to stop tolerating unfavorable conditions, where
Mm-hmm.
women stick with something or somebody and try to, quote, make it work, when most of the time it just didn't, never did, never was going to, never in
Yeah.
this lifetime, never in that lifetime, never in 10 lifetimes from now, never if you wiggled
Yeah.
your nose and did a magic trick, it's never going to work. Why do women have such a hard time accepting that? And it's put more and more time and energy into trying to save something that's already on life support. It's like, stop it.
Right. Well,
Stop it.
there's a few layers. And one of the things that I've been seeing a lot recently in my work that has to do with helping people overcome that self-sacrificing pattern, that people-pleasing pattern, so forth, so on, goes back to being a little kid and being stuck with parents that you needed in order to survive. You needed them to take care of you in order to survive. And so you needed to make that relationship work, because if it didn't, you weren't going to make it. And it was going to be life threatening to you, right? To disconnect from your parental caregiver.
Right.
And so a lot of people that grow up in sort of unhealthy or traumatic environments, then when they get into romantic relationships, into adulthood, that same dynamic is present, right? We think that we can't just choose for us. We got to make this work, because if we don't make it work, we're not going to survive. It's the little child part of yourself that's going, I have to get this person to love me and to make this work, because I'm not going to be okay if they don't. So when we take care of the hurt little girl inside of us and do that work of self-love, which I know is a theme of Debruary, right? And we
Yes,
do
it
that
is.
work of self-love, then we can see more clearly whether or not something is working for us, and not feel compelled to have to get our needs met from that person, but to say, you know what, this works for me or it doesn't. I can choose one way or the other, but it doesn't become this sort of, on a psychological and emotional level, this like existential threat almost to fail at a relationship, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I can tell you, I saw this thing, I just all of a sudden it just flashed in my mind. This was a guy with a girl though, so it's a slightly different, but I think the emotions are kind of what we're talking about. And somebody in this store where this went down had taken this video. Alana, this woman was breaking up with him, right? This guy, he had to be in his late 20s, early 30s. This woman says, I don't want to be bothered with you. Girlfriend, he broke down. This guy was like grabbing her legs. He was sobbing like a toddler, like his mommy was leaving him or something. It was the weirdest
Yeah.
thing. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, it was heartbreaking. I started to cry because of the emotion that I could feel through the video of his horror, his terror, his like absolute just feelings of
Right. And
rejection and abandonment. And she's just looking at him like, "Ugh, you just disgust me." And this guy was just like hanging on her legs and all on the floor. It was just, oh my God. But I can just imagine, what you're
yeah,
saying
and
about
very, very likely there's some traumatic at that point, that in that video, he was no longer in touch with his adult self. He was
right.
fully connected to an inner toddler, perhaps, that had a traumatic experience or a loss or an abandonment and has fully gone into that experience and is reliving that experience. And so the ability to tell when you're in a past kind of reactive pattern and when you're present can be one of the big keys to healing, to moving forward, to having healthy patterns in your relationships, is to be able to really recognize when it's your inner child that's acting up and when it's your adult self that's present and engaged.
That's very, very interesting. So you devoted an entire chapter to feelings in this book and how
Mm-hmm.
women judge themselves for feeling, the way that they do. And I wanted to ask you, what is a healthier way to deal with our feelings? Because one of the things, I did a whole video on it, telling
Mm-hmm.
women that one of the things that they need to do in relationship is control their feelings. I mean, it's fine to have them, but
Mm-hmm.
there's a point at which, it becomes counterproductive to have certain feelings in a certain situation where you can see that it's fruitless and pointless and it's going to be detrimental to you.
Well, so
So,
I think there's
you know,
two layers there. One is
okay, I'm all ears. Let's go.
one of them is the feelings themselves, and the other is the expression or what you do with those feelings. So my somebody once told me, and this changed my life, was your feelings are not up for negotiation. They are the lived experience of the moment that you are in. So if someone says something to you and a feeling of sadness arises inside of you, that's just what's happening in that moment. It's not good or bad. It's not right or wrong. It's what's occurring.
Hmm.
It's the reality of the situation. So to tell yourself that your feelings are wrong is to tell yourself that this sensation that you have is wrong. We don't tell ourselves when somebody, maybe we trip and fall and we bang our leg and it hurts. We don't tell ourselves that we shouldn't hurt in the place that was injured, right?
Right.
And so I think with the sort of emotions, it's the same way. Emotion is actually information. It is giving us information about our experiences, about how we're being impacted by people's engagement and interaction with us. And it is something to listen to and pay attention to. So if somebody says something and it feels painful, that is information. Like, ow, okay, that hurt. I wonder what's that's about. I spent a lot of years of my life studying something called nonviolent communication.
Hey, oh,
And
wait a minute. What does that mean?
So it's a practice of understanding human behavior, whole school of work by a man named Marshall Rosenberg. But one of the key elements of nonviolent communication has to do with that your feelings arise in relationship to your needs. The qualities that we all share as human beings that when present enrich our lives and when absent detract from them. So care, respect, understanding, love, nurturing, food, shelter, those are all basic human needs. And so when a feeling shows up, it's not what the other person said or did per se, it's whether or not it aligns with our needs. So if something hurts, it's like, that didn't meet my need for care, or it didn't fit with my need for respect. So when you start to listen to your feelings as indicators of your needs, as information that you can use to understand how your experience is impacting you, then you can start to make adjustments and to see sort of where you stand in relationship to different situations or circumstances, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. So it's like a little alarm. It could be rather like a little alarm going off warning you that
Yeah,
this is a
it's a bit
situation
of
that might be
information.
dangerous to you.
Yeah, or I'm feeling scared. Okay, that's just what's happening right now. I wonder what that feeling scared is about. It could be about when I was 5 years old. It could be about there's an actual danger to this situation. It could be about some other layer. But if you stop and listen, it's going to give you way more information than if you just go, shh, shh. Like basically, we tell ourselves to shut up when we tell ourselves not to have feelings. Like, just shut up. I don't want to hear what you have to say. But there's some part of you that's being like, hey, there's a message here for you. Listen. And I spent so much time trying to brush my feelings away and telling myself I was wrong for feeling what I was feeling. Did not help me at all, did not help me with getting over depression. And when I started to have space for and embrace whatever those feelings were that were showing up, not the story necessarily, but the actual feeling, it opened up so much more understanding about my life and about how I felt about situations I was in, how people treated me, the world around me, and then allowed me to make choices to adjust accordingly.
I just want to, put a plug in here, listeners struggling with depression and trying to figure out, why am I feeling this way and what I can do. There's a lot of good exercises in this book where you can examine those feelings. I was reading through her book, and I'm trying to do this in a way where I actually give each guest the respect of actually reading their book, not doing how a lot of guests show hosts do where they just kind of flip through. I actually sit, making time to read it. I'm not watching TV. I'm not going out. I'm not hanging out. I'm reading their books, and there was a lot here. I mean, you could feel through the words that she chose, you could feel what she has gone through. You could feel what she's trying to impart to you about caring for yourself, respecting yourself, and going deeper to figure out what's motivating you to treat yourself the way that you are. It was good, Alana. I got to give you credit, girl. It was a really, really
Thank
good
you.
book.
Yeah.
Really good book. So let's move on to the next question I have for you. One of the things that you said in here that I also thought was an interesting statement. You can't fix, heal, resolve something that's not actually yours.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? And
So,
how do we, I mean, well, you talk about it. I mean, that's your
yeah.
phrase. So
So there's a
let's
couple
share that.
different layers. And, I originally wrote that for all the empathic people of the world, all the empathic people of the world who feel the emotions, the feelings, the upsets, the turmoil of other people, and then thinks that it's theirs. So if you go to
Mm,
therapy dealing with all these issues that you think are yours, trying to sort out, trying to heal it, trying to fix it. But the truth is, you're just absorbing the feelings of the people around you. You're not going to get very far. And then the other layer that it's since come to mean is that there are so many places where we take on lies about ourselves from other people or from our experiences in life that don't belong to us, and then we try to fix it. So an example would be maybe because of how other people treated us or engaged with us in our life, we bought the lie that we're not good enough. And so we spend a lot of our lives trying to fix what's not good enough about ourselves, trying to be good enough, trying to heal whatever we think is not good enough. Well, if that was a lie in the first place, which it was because it is a lie, then no amount of the fixing, healing, solving, resolving not good enough is going to work, because the truth is that was never the issue. You were never not good enough in the first place. The truth is other people were not good enough to you and did not show up for you in the way that you needed them to when you were little. They needed them to care for you, to feel like you mattered and that you were enough. And so, and especially with little children, if there's a problem in the world around them, especially with their caregiver, it's way, way too scary to comprehend that your caregiver doesn't have it together, because you need them to survive. It's much easier to think the problem is with you and then try to fix the problem with you, because that's not annihilation, right? You can handle something being wrong with you. And so this thing of whether it's not good enough or whatever those projections onto you, those beliefs onto you from other people that you have then bought is true and spend your lifetime trying to fix, they're not yours in the first place. There's nothing wrong with you. So trying to resolve that lie, you just get looped up, because there's never anything you can do to be good enough, because you're never not good enough, if that makes sense.
No, it does. It's like you're trying to prove you're trying to prove a lie as being untrue when it was untrue from the get-go. What are you doing?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Or like, I don't matter. Like, the problem was that other people didn't give you the sense of mattering that you deserved. The problem was with them, not with you.
I have a question from the listeners here.
Yeah, sure.
Your first question says, what can we do to let go of unhealthy thought patterns related to feeling unloved?
Well, I say that everything is information that you can use to your advantage, and nothing is showing up in your life for no reason. So those unhealthy thoughts, just trying to get rid of them usually doesn't work or takes a huge amount of effort, because it's the subconscious's way to try to do something for you. So you want to start to understand and look at what is the value or the benefit that you're receiving from holding on to that thought. What is your subconscious trying to do? And usually it's some version of protecting you or keeping you safe by continuing to have those thought patterns. Because if we don't give the subconscious a new strategy, it's going to go right back to the old way. So telling yourself you're not good enough, you're not good enough, you're not good enough could be a protection from disappointment, from feeling hurt, from, it could be a whole lot of different layers. And so if the real issue is that you're trying to protect yourself, then just eliminating that thought is going to leave your subconscious feeling terrified, and it's going to grasp back onto it. So,
that's terrible.
Well, it's actually beautiful, because when you get to the underneath layer, you realize that you're never actually doing anything wrong. There's always a reason for everything that you're doing. And if you understand it at the subconscious level, it becomes easy to shift and change, rather than feeling like, oh, I have this bad habit, I have this annoying pattern, like basically wrong. There's these things that are wrong about how I am. they're not wrong. They're just not giving you the results that you would like. And you just have to figure out what's really going on there so that you can shift it and have a different experience.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes sense. So the question number 2 is what sustains self confidence, self love, so that it's just more automatic and not a constant pursuit?
Well, it's funny because the answer is almost like a similar thing, right? Is that the lack of self confidence is usually something deeply subconscious and at a deep subconscious level. And so if we do the sort of behavior of confidence, it is a lot of effort. It is a lot of striving. It is a lot of struggle. Versus if we can heal the part of ourselves, usually, again, a lot of this goes back to being a little child. If we can get to that deeply unloved subconscious part that's still wanting to be cared for, and we can do that healing, then the confidence comes more naturally, sort of as a result of doing the healing work, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So like you can change behavior or you can change the root. And changing behavior takes a lot of effort and, habit, whatever. When you get to the root of what's like a dandelion, right? You can keep cutting them down, they keep growing back. You dig it out by the root, and then, wow, there's this beautiful transformation, and there's not any effort to keep doing that thing. So again, it's a lot of that stuff goes right to the subconscious.
Okay, here's another one. It says, oops, sorry, I rolled past it. Let me scroll up. Okay. I'm estranged from my very toxic family. Everyone talks about Zoom family chats during this pandemic. How do I get over the hurt of not having that? So I guess every other families are having that, but hers isn't.
Right. Yep. So there's some deep healing work to do there too. I also come from a family that I'm estranged from for various reasons. And so I would say give yourself love and compassion for your choice to estrange yourself from them, right? Because it's probably for very good reason that you've chosen to have that distance. And it's easy to look at the people who have what you don't, but also remember that you are not alone. I cannot tell you how many people I talk with who have struggles with toxic family, struggles with family dynamics, and feel a little bit of that ache. And then the other piece is to really to start to look at what do you want to cultivate for yourself as a sense of family and as a sense of health and as a sense of closeness. Because we have this idea of what family should be, or mom, dad, aunt, uncle, sister, brother should be, and it creates a lot of pain for a lot of people because it keeps us from seeing the reality of what is. So an exercise that all of you can try if you're dealing with family is to pick a member of your family, let's say your mom, and now take away the label of that family member. So if your mom were not your mom, if she were just another person in your life, how would you feel about that relationship? Would it be a person that you would want to associate with? Do you like her? Would you accept being treated that way by another person? It can really bring some clarity to the dynamics that happen within family when you take out those family labels and just think about it as another person. Like when I did it with my sister, she's just another woman I happen to know. Would I like her? Would I want to be her friend? How would I feel? And it can take some of the sort of clouding and shoulding around family, and then recognize what it is, recognize it for what it is, mourn what it is not and couldn't be, and then choose how you want to show up accordingly.
What I always tell people is, our family is great when they're, in your corner and got your back and all of that. But the bottom line is the reality. You didn't pick them clowns. You know what I mean? Not no one of you had any choice in the fact that you are related.
Yeah.
And I look at some of my relatives and I'm like, oh no, I don't know you. Forget you know me. Lose my number. I
Yeah.
don't know. They don't know where I live. Nothing. And it's like I don't
Yeah.
want to be bothered. And so, I think people need to understand just because you related to somebody doesn't mean you have to associate with them. There's no law that says you have to be affiliated with them. They don't need to know your number. Give them your Google phone number and just give them the Heisman. And so
Yeah,
it's
and there
like,
is a lot of cultural belief and expectation about what family is or what family should be. And so I really just invite you, if you struggle with your family, to really unpack that for yourself and choose your own well-being, your own health, your own sanity over your commitment to what family should be, because you will be so much better off in the long run if you do that. And you may or may not choose to associate with family members that maybe if they weren't your family, you wouldn't otherwise. But when you can have the clarity and see it for what it is, then you can make the clear choice about how you show
mm,
up and
good
and
point. You got to
have
have that clarity.
those good boundaries about what you will and won't. We talked about tolerating what you will and won't accept into your life. And I choose to engage with this person because it gives me this benefit. I choose not to because it costs me too much, whatever that is for you.
So let's say, how do you you asked about love in your book. How do we identify our definition of love?
Right.
And
Writing your
then
own
if it's something
definition
that's
of love.
not really working for us, how do we change that?
Mhm. So in the book, I say, love is love when it feels like love to you. So that's a starting point. What feels like love to you? And I actually created a whole exercise, which I won't go into too much in depth, but was to look at, you know, all of the positive experiences that you had growing up in your childhood, where you felt loved, nurtured, cared for, and then all of the sort of detractive negative ones. And then your own definition of love is really made up of the things, the transformation of the negative qualities, what you didn't receive, and the integration of the positive qualities. So if you had a mom that was overbearing all the time and always in your business, then love might be spacious and generous and allowing. If you had a distant mom who paid no attention to you, love might be connecting and warm and engaging. But to
Mm,
really find out what is it that really feels like love to you. And like when I did this the first time, it was like love cares about and considers my needs and well-being and cares about my feelings. Those were some of the things that I determined were part of love for me. And so for each person, it's going to be a little bit different based on your lived experience, but to really understand for yourself so that you don't get confused when people are like, I love you. And you're going like, this doesn't really feel that good. Like, okay, this doesn't feel like love. This is not what love is to me.
right.
And because it can be so confusing some of the time, but to really get into that clarity of like, this is what it feels like for me to be truly loved.
Well, one thing as we start winding down here, I have to ask you the question I ask each and every one of our guests. Before you go, please
Mm-hmm.
define what self love is from your perspective.
So for me, self love is about knowing myself clearly and essentially about having really good boundaries. So knowing what does and does not work for me, knowing what is feeling good to me and what is not, and then making the choices that honor and respect that in every aspect of my life. And so an act of congruency with myself and not going against myself. Not to me is the ultimate self-love.
Oh, that's beautiful. And that is very, very true. Yeah, there you but I just want you to know before we go how much everyone here appreciated you actually showing up. When this is over, you can go back and read the comments in the
Super. I
chat
will.
and
Oh,
you get
lovely.
all kinds of kudos and applause because you are just a trooper. You poor
Yeah.
thing. I don't even know what to say.
This
But
is my passion,
you did
so
a
it actually
great,
cheers
great
me
job.
up. It cheers me up to be here and talk about these things because it
That's
is,
good.
so much of my who I am and what I bring to the world. So
Well, let's share, let them know where they can find you and find
yeah,
some more
sure.
information about you and
Um,
what you're doing.
so you can get a free copy, actually, PDF copy of my book at findingyourownhappybook.com. And that's a great place to start. I also have a Facebook group where I do live videos, I share posts, we have conversations by the same name, Finding Your Own Happy. So you can search for that on Facebook, and those are the two best ways to connect with me.
That's
And I'm on
good.
Facebook all the time. So once you're in my group, we'll say hi, I'll message you, we'll chat. We can build that a bit of that relationship with each other.
That's so excellent. Thank you so much, Alana.
Yes, thank you. It's been a real pleasure.
It really has. I really enjoyed you. Now you go rest.
Yeah, I'm gonna rest my mouth, eat some ice cream.
You go and rest, and we will talk real soon. I'll send you some email.
All right. Thanks so
Okay.
much. Have a
You
beautiful
bye
night
bye.
or day, whatever it is for you.
Bye bye. Okay, you young people. That was a lot. As you see, I have just the most respect for her because I don't know if I'd been able to do it. I think I would have been like, deuces, I can't come. But she showed up. I have a lot more questions for her because, like I said, her book was really, really interesting. And I think based on a lot of the questions that have come through the advice column and some of the things that we've discussed, I've seen the comments that you guys have made in the chat streams and on the wall. I think that her journey would really resonate with a lot of you, and that's why I was so intrigued with what she wrote. And so the fact that she's offering this book to you free of charge at the web, I will put the URL in the show description after this so that you can just click it and and download the book. I want you to go through it and do those exercises. Remember, you were advised to bring to each show a notebook. I wanted you to have a notebook where you put your notes and comments, questions, everything for each one of these shows in one place so that you can find it later on. This is like going to be your Bible to moving you forward away from all the crazy relationships and the craziness that you've accepted from men, from women, from your relatives, so that you end up at the end of this month in a far greater, better place, emotionally and mentally, psychologically, spiritually, than you were at the beginning of the month. Okay. And in this book, she has some really great exercises, one of which I was going to ask her about, but I decided, I couldn't take it. I was just like, oh my God, I hope she's not in pain. And I just couldn't do it. But one of the things I want to do, she has this exercise in here about reclaiming your energy, giving away your power, and something called what you couldn't see in childhood, you won't see in adulthood. I mean, she just has a lot of really interesting things from her journey that she's sharing with you. And I would like you to avail yourselves of her knowledge and experience. So please go down there in the link, which I will put up there in just a few minutes as soon as YouTube finishes processing the video. And you can go down and click the link and download the book for free and do those exercises. All right. We'll be back tomorrow because it's video a day, February. We got something for you every day. Tomorrow is Saturday, and we're going to have a live stream. The weekend shows are at 2 p.m. Pacific. The weekday shows are at 6 p.m. Pacific. It's consistent throughout the whole month. Set your calendar, even if you don't want to show, hear a particular show. Set your dinger, your bell ringer, reminder, whatever they call it. to ring at that time so that you come on and see if it's something you want to learn about. But tomorrow we're going to be talking with Bonita Owens about the power of no and setting boundaries. That is so important. I want every one of you here. Okay. And then on Sunday, we'll talk about how to gain joy instead of pounds. Because, a lot of people, they don't take care of themselves and they eat to kind of bury their pain. That's not self-love. Because most of the time, what you eating, if you was eating something healthy, you wouldn't be gaining weight, right? So we're going to talk about that. And on Monday, we have another live stream called with Wendy Dumbroff, Mindfulness and Self-Love. And then on Tuesday, we have an upload while Shay and I catch our breath. And the next live stream will be on Wednesday with Dr. Rita Louise. Love should never hurt. And the main thing it should not hurt is you. Okay, so I'm telling you, this show, this month is like my best February ever. I hope you ladies are here for as many of them as possible for the live because it's better to catch the guests here. If not, of course, you can always catch the replay. But thank you so much. Go out and rest. Enjoy the rest of your uh, Friday night. Okay. Enjoy yourself. I'll talk to you real soon, like tomorrow. All right. Thanks everybody for showing up. Thanks, Shay, for being the wonderful moderator that you are. Thank you, ladies who submitted questions, and those of you who made donations to support the channel. I'll see you guys tomorrow night. Bye bye.